wonders of modern technology.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, councillors, members of the public, Michael, our ACSO, and Helen Andrews, our acting inspector. Thank you for being here this evening. Before we start tonight, can I just emphasise that because of the way we're set out this evening, I would ask everyone please to speak very clearly. I may ask people to repeat what they've said if I believe that one or other of us are not able to hear them clearly. So please bear with us. It's uncharted territory, very, very unusual times. We now have 1 minute just to gather our thoughts before I formally start the meeting. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. We'll begin. We'll start with apologies. I've received apologies from Councillor Melody Roberts, and that concludes the apologies. We have no other apologies for this evening. If I go round, I'll just mention all the councillors, and then you can just say hello and introduce yourselves. So, Councillor Mark Clark. Yeah. Councillor Rebecca Clark.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Sean Cullen.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Sandra Delamere. Councillor Alan Fairhead.
Present, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Matt Kitcher.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Simon Lodge.
Chairman.
Councillor Gemma Lovell.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Steph Osborne.
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Alex Wade.
Present, Chairman.
And Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Present and good evening, Chair.
Sandra,
Present, Chairman.
Yes.
I am struggling.
No problem.
I've got my hearing aids in, but it's still not. Still a bit of a problem.
Okay, well, I mean, do alert me if it's too difficult for you. Thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest and dispensations this evening?
We have one dispensation from a request from Councillor Malcolm Wade because of being a councillor taking part in the county budget process. Thank
you very much. Did everyone hear that? We've got a dispensation from Councillor Malcolm Wade in his capacity as a county councillor.
Is everyone happy to grant that?
Thank you. That's there we go. Any other dispensations required? Thank you very much. Right, then we'll move to our community safety update, and I'll hand over to Helen. Thank you very much for being here this evening.
Thank you, and it's nice to see everyone in person tonight. So I'll start with, first of all, the encampment that you're all aware that did come first of all to Marchwood and then came over here. I have to say that we're coming to the end of June, and that's the first encampment we've had in the New Forest. So that's not bad. We had quite a influx of encampments last summer, probably due to many of their fairs and rallies cancelled. So there are obviously a few issues, but generally we didn't have many reported issues with the encampments in place. And I know with Malcolm's assistants and the bailiffs, they left fairly peacefully. That's what I've been told. And I don't know where they went to. They went out of the New Forest completely. So you know, we didn't have any intelligence where they left them or where they went to. So no issues there. We have had an increase of fires being set by local youth, some probably intentionally and some just because it's summertime, they're not at school, all of obviously year 11 are out. However, we've had some excellent results with the AXOs and also the local neighbourhood teams who've identified, I think, 4 people in total. Had the Netley View skate park, that was set alight, so obviously that was intentional, and over at the Duck Pond at Beechwood Way and Oaklands Way. So those youths have either been given community resolutions, conditional cautions, or referral to youth offending team. So that was a cracking result there. There has been a series of reports of antisocial behaviour again at St Andrew's Church. Individuals were identified and they have come from Applemore School. So the school's aware, they're working with the church. So hopefully we'll get some results from there. We had the Ring of Steel operation for County Lines Drug Week, where basically we target individuals' addresses and do engagement, and that was very successful. We continue with our online beat surgeries on our Facebook pages. So that's well received by the public and we get asked a lot of questions there. But as we come out of COVID, we're starting now to do engagements out, you know, for the public to come and see us. So we'll be doing one in July, August time. There'll be a joint operation with NFDC and fire and police, and it will be advertised. It's done on Market Day in Hythe Village Centre, and it gives the opportunity for the public to come and speak to us and discuss any issues at all. That is generally a yearly event and well received, and we do that throughout the New Forest. We had a male who was continuing to shoplift in various shops in the village. A male was identified through Shopwatch, which is up and running again, so that was very successful there, and he's been dealt with accordingly. The pub watch scheme is up and running, and obviously we've had the Euros, and actually across the forest we've had extra staff on for the Euros, but we're not seeing any main issues. The one pub of note that's probably come up is the Glen, and one down at Fawley. I can't remember the name of that, but that's obviously not your area. So
was it the Falcon?
Falcon, yes. So they're the 2 pubs that have had a couple of issues, but nothing major. And actually, like I said, across the New Forest, we haven't really seen a rise of antisocial behaviour, because obviously you take warm weather, beer and football doesn't bode well, as you can imagine, but so far so good. And obviously coming out of COVID, not completely yet, but not far off, our extra staff for COVID has now more or less come to an end. So end of the month, the government funding has stopped, so we won't have extra patrols out for that. But to be quite honest, the last few weeks, we've hardly had any issues regarding COVID and any breaches. So it's all been pretty good there. So like I said, antisocial behaviour is on an increase, but we know that's also seasonal. We get this every year, unfortunately. So we're working with Mike and also the Handy Trust. So we're trying to do what we can. We're getting a new PCSO that starts with the team in July. So she'll be trained up, obviously, but you know, it's another member of staff, so that's good. And we're getting a new PC who's joining the team in July as well. So that's an added extra. So that's the highlights from me. So if anyone's got any questions, then please go ahead.
Can I just ask, because obviously we are putting funding into the CCTV cameras. Have they been helpful in identifying ASB incidents? Has there been much use made of those cameras?
Not necessarily for antisocial behaviour. I don't know if Mike knows more about.
not so much antisocial behaviour. They were certainly pivotal in the forest front fire. Hythe Dibden was able to identify the 2 offenders that received the caution and their community resolution order from the CCTV. So they were instrumental in that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
I'm a big fan of CCTV, and nowadays people just in their private homes have got the Ring doorbells and various cameras or dash cam, and actually the amount of evidence we get from those is incredible, because like you take to court a camera or what you've seen is much better than someone's written statement.
Councillor Wade.
Thank you, Chairman. And please forgive me if I misheard you earlier. Yeah, it's the environment. Did you mention that there were some issues of fire starting at the beginning?
Yeah.
Because this has been a problem on the water side before. It's been cyclic. And when this took place in the last time, or from the previous times, fire and rescue did sort of courses for the young people when they were caught, if you pardon the expression, and it was used to, in a way, turn them in the direction, if you understand what I mean. If this is a prolonged bout of fire starting, as we have had in the past, is there any likelihood, do you know, that they will reinstate those, because they were quite effective?
I'm not sure because of staffing issues, staffing levels, but we can look into that. I mean, I'm hoping with these youngsters, we've caught it in the bud, nipped it in the bud. So, but it's just something we can look at, because some years ago when I was a sergeant in Hythe, I worked along with fire to do those courses.
So you know what I mean then?
Yeah. So I'll ask the question, but I think again, it's staffing levels with that, but leave that with me.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any. Am I missing anyone? I'm not seeing any other hands up. Okay. Well, I thank you very much for your time coming along this evening. That's it's very much valued to get these regular updates, not just by councillors but by the community as well. So thank you for that. Right, Michael, are you reading the report or are we noting the report?
I would suggest that if Mike wants to highlight any aspect of it.
Then over to you. Thank you.
Now, as I'll reiterate what Helen said, it's been a busy month of May for the ACSOs. There has been an increase of antisocial behaviour. The church, St Andrew's Church, was particularly vulnerable at one stage. However, in the last week, they've had no antisocial visits from teenagers or children. We have been paying a big presence up there in and around the building and in around the area. Yesterday, they had a company up there to look at fitting in the CCTV. So they've taken up on board our advice. And with our presence, the antisocial behaviour has dropped off from St Andrew's Church. The fires, we do have a problem with fires. Hythe Dibden and I came across caught a fire last Wednesday, but both young boys have been dealt with community resolution orders. Myself and Sophia from the Handy Trust, we're going to visit 4 children next week to refer to the young offender, youth offending team. So hopefully, as Helen said, we can nip that in the bud. But last week's been relatively quiet.
Never say that.
Yeah, never say the Q word. I think we're winning on the front of the drugs underneath Whitewater Rise as well. We're paying particular attention to that area. We've come across a few children underneath there with cannabis. In the last week to 10 days, we've been patrolling underneath there and been paying a big presence underneath there, and we've come across absolutely no one. So hopefully we're kind of nipping that in the bud as well.
Thank you very much for your first live report to council. Thank you. Stephanie.
I was just going to say I'd better mention it because I had a person that lives near the car park actually come round my house today to say, could I mention it at the meeting tonight? They have reported it, as Helen always says, but there is some goings on in the car park most evenings about 5 o'clock. That would be really good if someone could see what they're up to.
Certainly we can, well, I'll pay that attention, and we'll pay a big visit around there and make our presence.
This lady's a probation officer. She knows what she's looking at and what she can see. So I said, I will mention it tonight. Right, thank you.
Yeah,
Let's ask what they're doing. You said they're getting up to, what are they doing exactly?
Probably what Mike just mentioned at the end there.
What, the drugs? Do we know? I just need to be specific. Do we know that then?
But she told me.
Right, okay.
Reported it to, she had a name of a policeman she's reported it to as well.
Councillor Alex Wade.
Good evening, Michael. Firstly, can I praise you and Mike for your work last week, an extraordinary week, and an amazing support of the local residents and community and communication, most importantly. So I think that should go on the record. My question is, have you had any reports of young individuals on scooters, electric scooters and small bikes going down public footpaths and alleyways? I reported one on 101 at the weekend because I live next to a footpath, and they went down the footpath next to where I live, which is a well-used one, and obviously for the public risk. I wondered if any other similar reports have been made to yourselves.
I've only had one report, and that was today from an elderly lady who I paid a home visit to. She asked if I could come and actually visit her at home because she didn't want to leave home, and that was to do with not only parking at the schools, at Orchard School, but with children riding bikes on the pavement. That's the only one that I've had raised with me. I've had no emails or phone calls regarding scooters or bikes.
Well, although I'll email you, I have reported it to 101 as well, because it was a Sunday afternoon and thankfully not school time, because this particular footpath is very well used as a link to local schools, and it's and they did go quite fast, but I'll drop you a message on that. Thank you.
Councillor Mark Clark.
Just like, just about, are you seeing any evidence of any rough sleepers around, given the warmer weather?
No, we've seen none of our local rough sleepers at all. Greg, which is one of our characters that we meet quite often, we haven't seen him for about 3-4 weeks now, and no other rough sleepers come to our attention. All the wooded areas we patrolled through, we've come across a few dens, but that's children making dens. We've seen no rough sleeping in the woods neither. So,
Do you have any, Councillor Malcolm Wade?
First, Chairman, can I ask the Vice Chairman of the Council to speak a little clearer, because I couldn't hear any of what you said. Back to the question I want to say is that I want to make a point really. The members of the community that I have come across are really pleased with the work you're doing, Mike. I wanted to state publicly that you and the other Mike have done a brilliant job. And the returning of the ACSO service to Hythe Dibden has been a big positive both for the council and the community. So keep up the good work and well done. Thank you.
And I echo that as well from the police's point of view. You know, you take a lot of the work away from the local neighbourhood team, and they really appreciate all the work you do.
Well, I was going to say that myself as well, but I think I will certainly echo what's been said. And I think the last week has really shown what an asset you are to the parish. So thank you very much, and thank you both for your time and coming along this evening.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to move on to the minutes of the last meeting. That's agenda item 4. Okay, so shall I go through page by page? If there are any issues, please put your hand up or call out, and I will call you to speak. Page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, and page 12. Can I have indication that you are happy to accept the minutes? Do we have a proposer?
I propose to accept.
Thank you. And a seconder? Yep. Thank you. That's proposed by Councillor Alex Wade and seconded by Councillor Mark Clark.
Is that all in favour?
I got a general. would you like it more demonstrative than that? Right, can we all have a big cheer for the minutes, please?
Hooray!
Thank you. Right, moving on to the next item, which is Chairman's announcements. Councillor Alex Wade.
Clarification, was the last discussion point, did we go through all 3 meetings minutes or just the first meeting from the 28th?
I beg your pardon. We've got planning and personnel items 10 and 11. Were there any others you were wanting to include?
There are other minutes.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Right, okay.
My apologies for the interruption.
No, absolutely. More power to your elbow. Right, I'll move on then. So we've agreed up to page 12. We're now on to page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Page 16. Page 17. I'll stop there because that's the end of that bit.
I would like to propose these as a true reflection of the meeting.
Thank you. And we got a second. Are we all happy to accept those?
No.
Thank you very much. And then we've got page 19, page 20, page 21, 22, 23, page 24. I will pause there. Do we have a proposer for that?
And Chair, I'm happy to propose those as a fair reflection of the 26th of May meeting, sir.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder for that? Thank you. Councillor Malcolm Wade, seconding.
I'm all in favour again.
Can I have a show of hands, those people who are in favour? Thank you very much. And then moving on, we've got,
That's it, Chair.
that's it. All right, I'll wake up now then. Thank you. Okay, I'll move on to item number 5 then, please, which is Chairman's announcements. It was with great pleasure that I attended my first official engagement, which was Marion Loveland's 100th prize birthday party. This was attended by 2 pipers piping and various military vehicles and people in military uniform. And they all gathered here at the parish hall before trooping down to Hythe, just next door to the pub. And then we presented her with various bouquets and presents and things. And Dr. Julian Lewis was there and various other people presenting her. And we had a lovely speech from Marion. It was a lovely occasion. I'd like to give a big thank you to all the councillors who participated in the litter picks, both at Applemore and Forest Front. And we hope to focus on other areas of the parish over the summer. I'd like to promote Hythe of Activity Day on the 7th of August from 10 AM to 4 PM in the village centre. It's an opportunity for all the clubs, charities, social groups, societies, lunch clubs, community groups, support groups, etc., to set up stall in Hythe Village Centre and promote their activities to the community. If anyone wishes any more detail on that, they can contact Helen Bradley at the Grove for more information. After such a period of lockdown, I think it's a real opportunity for people who've missed company fellowship to join things and really start to sort of make the most of what's in the area. There's a lot on offer in this area and surrounding. I'd also like to pay particular tribute to the whole team, officers and councillors, for what has been a challenging week, responding to the arrival of our visitors. And I think a small parish council has done itself proud in how quickly officers were able to respond and follow due guidelines to ensure that it went as smoothly as it did. So I really do pay tribute to everyone involved. Thank you. And that's the end of my announcements. Moving on to the county councillors, do we have a report from Councillor McAvoy? Right, okay, over to you then, please, Councillor Wade.
I had a very short report, but I have some hot off the press news to share with you. So we shall start at the beginning of it. On the 27th of May, I attended the Hampshire County Council annual meeting. It was a live meeting held in the ballroom at Hilton Hotel at the GS Bowl, West End. It was well organised, safe and socially distanced meeting with a newly elected cabinet and the whole council, including all the new members. I attended a virtual children families advisory panel, a virtual economy and transport.
Councillor Wade, I'm really sorry to interrupt. Could you just slow?
Sorry,
I'm really struggling to hear you over here.
my apologies, Chairman. Shall I start again? On the 27th of May, I attended the Hampshire County Council annual meeting. It was a live meeting held in the ballroom of the Hilton Hotel, the Aegeus Bowl, West End. It was well organised, safe, socially distanced meeting with a newly elected cabinet and the whole council, including all the new members. I have attended a virtual children's family advisory panel, along with virtual economy and transport and corporate parenting board briefings. And on the 21st of June, an extraordinary live meeting in Winchester to appoint long-serving county officer Carolyn Williamson as the new chief executive of the county council, replacing John Coghlan, who is retiring. Now, half the press, I have some information about the A326. The county council, so I got this today, which is why it's not all of it. The county council has now appointed Milestone Infrastructure Services to deliver the scheme and work planned to start on phase 1 of the scheme for the roundabouts on the 28th of June 2021. Dibden roundabout works commence on the 28th of June with traffic management for a period of 9 weeks. That's going to please all the commuters. And a 5-week closure of Main Road with a local signed diversion route. Hardley roundabout works due to commence mid to late July, with off-peak temporary signals on the northern arm of the roundabout for a 5-week period. Longcox roundabout.
Excuse me, could you just, I heard up to when you gave the time scale, I missed the time scale.
So I didn't hear what you said then, just say that again.
Roundabout, I missed the time scale. Was how many weeks did you say?
What, the Dibden? Hardly, sorry, hardly 5-week period.
Thank you.
Right.
Excuse me, you take the paper away between the mouth and the microphone, we'll hear you.
Oh, you're good. All right, Longcox roundabout works to start in early September for a 12-week period with traffic signals in operation and local and wider area signed diversion routes. Phase 2 of the scheme to begin later in the year with a view to being completed by late 2022. The phase will include Applemore roundabout, Sizeway, widening of approaches and exit lanes, duplication of national cycle network crossing of A326, which is the crossing we managed to get for that, for the roundabout. Blackfield Road / Church Lane / B3053, new signalised junction and crossing facilities. A326 / Holbury Drove and Southbourne Avenue, capacity improvements and pedestrian crossing facilities. And here's the biggie for us, Dibden Parish roundabout, widening of approaches and exit lanes. And these will bring in the filter lanes north to south and south to north. When I get further updates, I'll bring them to the attention of this council. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. And now we move on to reports by members of the district council. So if we start, please, with Councillor Mark Clark.
Nothing to report, Mr. Chairman, apart from being one of the attendees at the New Forest District Council full meeting, which discussed the New Milton Neighbourhood Plan and also the resolution of the advisement of setting up a panel for the appointment of a new chief executive. That's it.
And you also sat right by the camera.
I did.
Yes. Councillor Rebecca Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Super. Yes, I'm following on from what Councillor Wade just reported. This is actually a separate bit of work that's being bid for, but Waterside District Councillors were invited by Hampshire County Council to be given a heads up of the shortly to be published consultation on a multimodal transport strategy for the Waterside. So apart from the work that Malcolm's talking about, which is part of the Fawley Waterside development, this is a separate tranche of work. There are 4 main parts of the consultation that residents and consultees will be able to share their views on, including further proposed changes to the A326, the developing Waterside rail bid, treatment of the level crossing at Totton, and an active travel plan for the Waterside, which looks at improving bus, cycling and walking connections in the area. There will be 3 options to choose from in respect to the A326, ranging from the minimum junction improvements and widening through dual carriageway to the west of Totton southbound, widening from Hounsdown to Marchwood, through to the maximum amount of work, which would involve extending dual carriageway as far down the A326 as Applemore roundabout. Hampshire sets the middle way option as having the highest benefit cost ratio. As regards the developing Waterside rail bid, the 3 options range from 1 train per hour connecting Romsey and Hythe, through 2 trains per hour, extending the London to Southampton line, the high connectivity option, to 3 trains per hour, providing a shuttle service between Fawley Parkway and Southampton Central, which would be the high frequency option. And it's the last option that is calculated to have the highest benefit cost ratio. There are a range of options that are suggested to deal with the Totton level crossing issues, including a bridge and other such suggestions, and facilitate the developing Waterside rail bid. And as we know from councillors' previous reports to this council, there's already been a lot of work done on the LCWIP, the local cycling walking infrastructure plan, which connects cycling and walking routes right the way along the length of the Waterside from Southampton right down to Leap and Cowshot, and also proposed are some bus priority measures around Hounsdown, Junction Road in Tottenham, Rushington roundabout, and upgrading of a number of key route bus stops to provide real-time information. So this was a heads up for local councillors, but really we didn't say anything that residents and consultees won't see very shortly, and which we hope as many people as possible will get involved in and add their comments, because obviously it's going to create potentially a lot of change along the Waterside, so we need to get it right. I've attended in-person meetings at Appletree Court for the first time since the council moved to virtual meetings. I attended Cabinet, Planning Committee and full council, the latter albeit with proportionate reduced numbers. A video and audio feed was provided on YouTube, which we were pleased was the case after we'd asked if this could be continued. The next meeting of the full council has actually been moved back a week to the 19th of July to coincide with the envisaged unlocking of restrictions, should they take place as planned currently, which will enable us all to sit in the chamber once again. NFDC have assured us, though, that they'll be exploring other venues so that we can all attend meetings from the 19th of July, should the restrictions not be eased as they're anticipated currently. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sandra Delamere.
Nothing to report, Chairman.
Thank you. I'll go next. I attended the Greener Housing meeting on the 30th of May, and that was given over to issues surrounding fuel poverty, problems with smart meters and changing supplier, and the ongoing works programme for fitting air source heat pumps to 50 houses in the New Forest District Council housing stock. I attended the last of the Waste Strategy Working Group meetings on the 14th of May, which has now become the Sustainable Waste Management Task and Finish Group, snappy title. The meeting on the 14th outlined the response to the government's 2 consultation documents, Deposit Return Scheme and Extended Producer Responsibility. The meeting on the 27th was the first in the new guise and concerned responses to the likely government guidance on consistency of waste collection materials and the waste prevention programme. That's the end of my little bit there. And we move now on, please, to Councillor Steph Osborne.
Okay. Oh, did you do this? I don't know. I attended a meeting with Manjit from NFDC regarding the NFDC office in Hythe, where several of us were very strong in saying that we really need that facility returned to Hythe. And we're asking her to look into it. We've got figures to show that it is a need, I hope.
Stop it. I didn't hear what you said.
You hear me?
Oh, not easily.
Oh, hello, hello. Can anyone hear me?
It's all right. It's my hearing.
Okay, I'll give up. No, nothing to report. Can no one hear me?
You, councillor Osborne.
Hear you, yes.
You can hear me. Oh, okay.
Fine. It's not your fault. It's I've got a slight deficiency.
As a district councillor, I also got in touch with NFDC officers about the state of Dibden Parish village. And at last we've got it done. They've removed weeds properly by hand. I think it is still a little bit more to do. And the litter and all the things like that have been attended to. So it actually looks a lot better. And I think Councillor Axwade has contacted me to say that he's noticed, and we all knew it had been done, thank goodness. What's the other thing? That I heard from the WCAG group that are part of my NFDC LC whip committee that I attend. And I'm going to put a question to the county councillor when I get that opportunity in the next session, I think. Is it? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Councillor Alex Wade, please.
Firstly, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me at the back?
Yeah, better. Thank you.
Chris. Okay, it's a bit of a long report. I attended my first housing and homelessness overview scrutiny panel on Wednesday, the 16th of June at Appletree Court in the main council chamber due to social distancing. We received the annual performance report of the authority, which advised there were 1,600 homelessness and housing advice requests in the past year. 207 households were placed in COVID secure accommodation and 358 social housing properties relet. As of the end of 2021 financial year, 211 out of the council's 600 additional council affordable homes target has been met. The target is to be achieved by April the 26th. And it looks like the council will achieve it. Although not especially ambitious, there are current sites that they are going through planning, bidding and developing around the district, including 6 homes up for tender, that's to build them, in Ladycross Road. Approximately 500 homes will be achieved by 23-24, although assumptions could change. I have raised with the housing team of possible sites within our parish in recent times to support housing for our community. There is new legislation, I understand, which the council are reviewing, where 25% of affordable homes on a site have to be first homes. Neighbourhood complaints went up from 123 a year to a whopping 407 in the past 12 months, no doubt impacted by lockdown, and resources had to be pushed forward to cover this area. And it's notable that a lot of councils picked up casework in this area as well. I asked a question on resident feedback on the responses that they were given, but was not given a clear response. Officers have worked very hard in the past year, but there are areas where residents aren't happy and we need to keep this in focus. There is positive news in that New Forest District Council have 2 new support workers to support homelessness who are funded for at least 3 years. There is a specialist accommodation for rough sleepers in the district. I have noticed spelling mistakes in my report, Claire, I will correct them. A homelessness prevention officer role has also been created. There's been a successful bid for funding of £298,450 for a rough sleeper initiative, including for a mental health nurse, the prevention officer mentioned, and wider support for those sleeping rough, including sofa surfing and no fixed address. Since March 2020, 239 households
were put in emergency accommodation with a mix of single and family households. 255 households were prevented from being homeless in a quite a mixed range of accommodation, including private sector, landlord mediation and B&Bs. This is a credit to the officers again, and work is being undertaken for a preemptive approach to residents at risk of eviction with officers' support, especially as the national ban on evictions will cease. The housing register, the numbers of registered people who need housing, saw a 6% rise in applicants from March to June 2020. That's 1,267 to 1,350, the majority requiring 1 or 2 bed homes. Our area, Hythe, has the 4th highest of need in the district, with a 12% of applicants, 157 individuals, and Dibden and Dibden Parish is 7th on the list with 70 or 5%. The second highest lettings have been for Hythe, which and Dibden Parish is 11th in the same list. I have questioned the numbers, and the increase was explained due to the change in the registering process, which meant many people fell off the list when they changed the process last year. So in some cases, people are returning due to need, but the number does remain a concern. I believe there are approximately 5,000 residents on the old register, and about approximately 1,000 have signed up on the new process since change. The committee has also supported the empty home strategy, which it really genuinely was very interesting, presented to the panel, where as of January 2020, 5.5% of private sector housing was unoccupied in the district. Generally, it's individual landlords and owners, from what I've been told, and there are 2,592 vacant dwellings. There are no areas which have a more significant number of empty homes than others, and it was agreed to focus on 3 key priorities: proactively identify long-term empty properties and target those with detrimental impact on their neighbourhood, provide support, advice and information to the owners to bring homes back into use, and finally, legislative powers. These would be the last resort and rarely used. In May 2021, council tax records showed 193 properties were vacant for over 2 years, and these are charged a 100% council tax premium on top of the full council tax. The day before, I attended the Community Partnerships and Wellbeing Overview and Scrutiny Panel. That has also been jazzily renamed. The annual performance report showed that the general fund budget is up by just over £1 million, and there have been savings of £1.5 million, with the updated revenue position at a spend of £23.2 million. Government support of £6.42 million, predominantly on revenue loss, including for the leisure centres. There was also a review of the incredible work of our officers who moved to focus on the COVID response, with the council dealing with food parcels, referrals and more. Customer service queries have risen in all forms this year, so that's online or over the phone. Garden waste calls rose by 63% in the same period. Our health and leisure centres officially move over to the Freedom contract on the 1st of July. A task and finish group will be set up to monitor this contract and the new relationship. Helen Andrews will also visit this committee in September to talk about community safety issues. And I did ask if the new PCC, Donna Jones, will be meeting New Forest residents as well. And the portfolio holder advised me this will be considered once she has settled into the role. We have a new street scene and open spaces manager who's called Ian Park, who's from Exeter University. As mentioned, there were 24 litter picks involved in the district currently, with 500 volunteers. And I did ask what more could be done by the New Forest District Council on response and education to littering that continues over the district, whether by visitors or not. I asked if litter had gone up during lockdown due to lockdown behaviours, more people visiting, and again, a way to response there. There was credit given to local volunteer groups, rightly so, but again, could the council do more? We also had an environmental health update, and due to COVID, there are 1,900 food and hygiene inspections outstanding, which they aim to work through. There were 300 new businesses set up in the past year in the district, which is a 20% rise year on year. Nearly 400 food hygiene queries in the same period, and we received other information on the depth of work, which has been pretty impressive from the team. It is a statutory service, so they have to do it and could not be moved elsewhere. For example, there are 657 service requests, including noise and bonfire related, as more of us spend time at home. I did also attend the transport strategy, but I won't repeat Councillor Clark's detailed report. I did meet with the Dibden Golf Centre working group. I understand that officers have met with the ladies captain to discuss some issues that they have over the appearance of the course and buildings. Current rules have limited catering and still do, and the impact on members using the course, such as no showers on site, among others. All the staff are back off furlough, and the 2 new greenkeepers are coming in to replace those that have moved on. And there was finally a discussion about plans Mitre and have about moving forward, which I can't go into detail of. Overall, I think the course, personally, and I raised this, needs to be doing more to promote use by younger residents. I started playing when I was 11, and I don't see a similar level of that age using the course now. And the need to ensure that those tea time gaps are filled, particularly as their catering revenue has been hit by the pandemic. And again, other than a steady stream of casework, I'll bring that to a close, and apologies for the length of the report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wade. Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies if I repeat something that someone else has said that I haven't heard. Right, okay. It's been quite a busy time. There's a New Forest District Council, like councils all over the country, move to a mixture of live and virtual meetings. I attended the Sustainable Waste Management Task and Finish group, which has been tweaked with Philip, which took over from the old Waste Strategy group on the 27th of May. On the 2nd of June, Councillor Rebecca Clark and I attended the first live NFDC meeting since the pandemic began. And that was a New Forest District Council June Cabinet meeting. Then we had the first live planning meeting on the 9th of June, but there's nothing in the parish, nothing in the meeting that affected this parish. However, on the 17th of June, I attended the live environment and sustainability overview and scrutiny panel. The administration have added sustainability to many of the panels within their terms of reference. Now, a number of issues were discussed on that meeting, including the new terms of reference. However, despite my request to include tackling climate change in the references, the Conservatives refused once again to recognise the seriousness of this and climate change by doing so. Their attitude was further shamed by New Forest District Council officers mentioning these issues in 2 further agenda items: the greener infrastructure strategy and the process on the joint strategy for South Hampshire. But rest assured, members, I told the meeting I will never stop raising the serious issue until they do the right thing and for the people of New Forest by addressing climate change seriously in the committees that deal with the environment and across the council completely. The Hythe Dibden New Forest councillors had a virtual meeting with Manjit Sahandu, hope I pronounced that right, the NFDC officer responsible for the running of the information offices throughout the district. As Hythe Dibden's office was the one opened the least, and we are the 2nd largest population community in the district. That is clearly unacceptable. We made a strong case for opening hours, and that continues until we give the people of Hythe Dibden the service level from NFDC they need and they deserve. Finally, members, I and both Councillor Clarks attended a reduced number extraordinary NFDC council meeting, which has already been mentioned the 21st of June, about the New neighbourhood plan, I heard that, and the details for recruiting a new chief exec. This has made it even more critical as the deputy chief exec is also retiring about the same time. As leader of the opposition on the council, I will be part of the selection panel for the chief exec. I just want to make something clear, members. The fact that 2 of the other councils I sit on, the chief execs are leaving, has nothing to do with anything I've said.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wade. We now move to the reports from members serving on outside bodies. May I please ask members to be as brief as they can possibly be on these items because of the slightly unusual situation we're in with audibility. So if you wouldn't mind putting your hand up for this one and I'll select. I believe Councillor Rebecca Clark was first. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. Just quickly on the Hythe Woodland Group, on the first Sunday of the month, the group was out in the local woodland with some new volunteers joining in for the first time as well. We walked the paths around the Navy Field, litter picking whilst new members were shown some of the bird boxes, plant species and areas managed by the group. The call out for new volunteers is still very much needed, and an article is due to appear in the next parish newsletter. Councillor, as regards Families Matter, Councillor Delamere and myself met with staff from Families Matter this month, discussing how we can best provide support through the Parish Council appointeeship. And we're working on an article similarly for the next newsletter so that they can highlight the work that they do in the parish. They cover a range of activities and they've been exceptionally active, as so many organisations in the community have been during the pandemic. They've had a particularly tough time within their community as well, as I know many of us in the community have. They've got a brand new website, so I'd urge people to have a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I believe the next one's from over. Was that you, Alan? Thank you. Councillor Alan Fairhead.
Thank you, Chairman. Hythe Pier Heritage Association. The Back on Track Day on the 29th of May took place, where the restored carriage and engine unit were displayed to the community and named the Gerald York. His grandson did the naming of the engine. Gerald York was the leader in putting the railway on the pier 99 years ago. The carriage is in now daily use. The next carriage is being dismantled for the renovation to take place. The HPA chairman mentioned his thanks to the Parish Council for their support. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Steph Osborne.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just remind you that the Dibden Allotments charity were hoping that we were going to nominate another member of the council to serve on the trustees there. So if I'm allowed, can I sort that out tonight? On the agenda.
Number 12.
Yep.
Oh, they asked me why, well, I'm Sean actually put us on the spot and said, haven't we done it yet? Okay.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Any more outside body bits? No? Okay, we'll move on then. Thank you very much, councillors. And we now move on to the public forum. Do we have any questions? Thank you.
Can you okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. I suppose all to say actually, as the public, that's me tonight, from the public's point of view, welcome to the new clerk and welcome to Gemma, the new councillor. And congratulations to you, Councillor Dowd, as being elected as chair.
Thank you.
I have got a question. This isn't my question, but I've noticed there's only 3 chairs in the public. Is that the most it's going to be, or because you would appreciate sometimes?
We cannot have any more to fulfill. Basically, this is the number of people we can have in the room maximum.
That's
So
20.
it's
20 in the room.
Yeah, we can only have 20 in the room in total.
Okay, I'm just asking because sometimes, as you know, you get a.
Well, hopefully we will not be needing to use this room next time. We'll be back in the Grove and it'll be business as usual. We'll keep our fingers crossed on that.
I just wanted to know that. The question I have is for you, Chairman.
Yep.
And it's about an anomaly. There's plenty of time over lockdown to read all the past minutes thing. So my question revolves to you, Chairman, around an anomaly around the agenda pack of May 2020. And in this pack, there's the accounts paid for February 2020. And the payments for wages and salaries is normally in this period about £19,000 to £20,000. But that particular month, there was an anomaly because the payment for wages and salaries shot up to £39,000, doubled just this 1 month. So please could you explain this anomaly?
I can't do that off the top of my head. So what I'll agree to do is that we will get back to you, and I will seek information and guidance on that one.
Thank you. That's quite acceptable.
No problem.
Can I ask that you email me? So I've got your email address, please.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, we now move on to questions from councillors to councillors. Again, please can I ask that questions are brief and answers are brief as they can be. Thank you very much. I believe that was Councillor Mark Clark first.
Just a single question to Councillor Malcolm Wade with regard to the waterside transport strategy, which Councillor Clark talked about. I wasn't able to listen to that. Was there any indication at all on that when they spoke about the railway that had any impact on the ferry funding or ferry operation rather than the funding, given the their subsidy has been taken away?
I didn't attend that because I was attending another meeting at the same time, so I can't really answer that. If you want to write your question to me, email your question to me, I'll find an answer for you.
I'm happy to give a response. It was actually quite a disappointing item that there wasn't really much of an answer given about how the ferry fits in with their plans. And in fact, I think it was quite a dismissive response. So I think this is something we need to push very hard on.
Well, there was nothing in there about additional water services down to perhaps the new Forley development or anything like that?
Not at all.
Okay.
In fact, you know, we need to push for a modular transport strategy being exactly that. Okay. They did mention that the 20-minute journey into Southampton represented a good time compared to going on the road, but that was as far as it went there, really.
Thank you.
Quite disappointing. I believe Councillor Alex Wade was next.
Again, my question is to the county councillor. Malcolm, please could you advise how the works that are going to be undertaken up and down the A326 are going to be publicised widely, because obviously that's important works, but a huge inconvenience to...
Speak slower and say it again, please.
Okay. How are the works that you mentioned going to be clearly publicised to the community? Bear in mind the date of start is quite soon with regards to the A326. Thank you.
Yeah, apart from I will personally publicise them on social media, I will forward the information to Dr. Clark, and then she can put it on our website and can be put on Hythe Pier and all the usual routes, and I'll send it to all members as well.
What are the county doing?
The county have emailed their members, and I am recounting it to you. As far as I know, that it will be on the county website for people to look at, and we go out of their way to do mail shots to the community or anything like that. That's never happened.
Thank you. Moving on, I believe we have a further question. Was that a question to answer, Councillor Wade?
I have a question for you, Chairman. Are you aware that the 6 meetings I attended to in both the county and the district were live meetings? Many of them in rooms with less ventilation and through air than this one. And the risk assessments and processes of those councils, both of them are safe and inviolate, is that one wears a mask to one goes to one's seat and then takes it off for the length of the meeting, puts the mask on again when one leaves. And also, if you have to leave the meeting for any other reason, you obviously put a mask on and out. Now, I apologise to the Vice Chairman of the Council for mentioning I couldn't hear you, because that is a fact. I have a bit of a hearing defect, and it goes for many of the others of you wearing masks. So I would request that what we're doing here is obviously based on a risk assessment that probably our insurance company are keen on. Can I request, Chairman, that you ask the officers and the clerk to review the risk assessment in line with the risk assessments of the county council, the district council, and probably many other councils around here, should the 19th of May not release us from this level of behaviour. And we have to have more meetings like this, because I think it's very important everybody can hear and be heard. And I know I'm not necessarily the only one that may have had some difficulties this evening. So I will request that our risk assessment is reviewed aligned with in line with other councils, so that we can have a more communicative meeting in a more sensible manner, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you for your point. I'm sorry I was rustling during that. I'm just referring to the our current documents. We have a risk assessment dated the 16th of June 2021, and holding face-to-face meetings. We've also got, I believe, was it in 2020, did you say?
We actually have two risk assessments. The first risk assessment is for this building as a whole, and that's for anybody who hires the building as advice and information to them. Secondly, if anybody uses or hires this building, they have to do an extra risk assessment for them as a user, and that is what we have done, and which I emailed to everyone this morning to give.
I received the email, Chairman.
I mean, that is based on the latest guidance. It's based on NOUT guidance, health guidance, coronavirus regulations. I'm not sure what Hampshire County Council uses, but if you want to ask those officers to share that with me, we can take that forward for next time.
Well, yeah, I would say that not just the county council, New Forest District Council as well, and I suspect other councils around here are a slightly different approach.
I'm hearing what you're saying, Councillor Wade, and I think as with anything, there is nothing to say that we can't review current practice, and I mean, I would be interested to know what individual situations were this evening, and that people are able to feedback how they found the meeting, if there were particular challenges, and then we will see, as with any policy, we will review it as appropriate. So thank you for your point.
Okay, so one last point.
No,
Nobody should be disadvantaged because of a personal disability. That's it.
I think I've covered that in my answer. Thank you, Councillor Wade. Right, I believe there was, yes, Councillor Alan Fairhead.
Chairman, are you aware that anything between your mouth and the microphone and any other councillor's mouth and microphone lessens the volume of the output? So might I suggest that anyone using slightly raises their visor or mask and speaks to the microphone, and unfortunately I'll point out particularly to Alex, although rightly you were talking to Councillor Malcolm Wade, you were talking to him, not the microphone. So therefore it lessens the impact of the microphone.
Thank you very much. I take your point, and I'm just hoping that this is a one-off and we can be back in the Grove next time. So hopefully we won't need to worry about that. Should we be here again, I think we've all learned a few lessons about how to use the microphones with masks on. Thank you. Councillor Alex Wade.
Is the chairman aware that in the next few days, the crowdfunder for the ferry will close and they are dangerously close to their target? So any councillors that could share it and encourage people to help them reach their target would be greatly appreciated, because I understand you have to give the money back if you don't reach your target. So I think last time I checked, there's about 1,400 off there and thereabouts. So any promotion to it would be much appreciated.
The chairman is aware, and he fully supports your plea to councillors and the public in general. Thank you. Right, I will find where my agenda is and we'll move on. Thank you very much. Have I got the right one?
Number 10.
Wrong pack. I'm swimming under paper here. Okay, we're moving on, please, to the planning committee minutes.
Evan, if I could please, item 1 there, declaration of interest and dispensations. The planning committee chairman, Councillor Wade, will probably remember that I asked dispensation on 10441, as it's virtually opposite my house, so therefore I didn't want to take part. And I also mentioned that in the list it was shown as 10 Melwood Road, when in fact, as this rightly says, it's 10 Melwood Road West.
Thank you for that. And that also reminds me that I also didn't take part in the item to do with Hythe Hospital, because I back onto the grounds of Hythe Hospital. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Your declaration of interest is noted, by the way, on page 31.
Oh, sorry.
Starting with page 25, which was the May planning minutes. Malcolm Wade's final contribution to the committee, he declared an interest as a member of New Forest District Council Planning Committee. Elsewhere, councillors Alex Wade and Malcolm Wade did not comment on applications 20-11193 and 11194, as the property is next door to a former councillor's house. Councillor Osborne did not comment on application 21-10599, as it's opposite her house. And lastly, Councillor Lovell did not comment on 21-10554 due to living opposite the application site. We will move from pages 25 through to pages 29 to do just the May planning applications first. If you have any comments or feedback, then please raise your hands now. Page 25. Page 26. Page 27. Page 28. And page 29. Do we all agree that they are a fair reflection of the meeting and agreements made by the Planning Committee?
I'm happy to propose that.
Can I have a seconder, please? Fabulous. Thank you very much. We then move on to page 4.
All in favour?
All in favour, sorry.
Thank you.
So we now move on to the June planning application, which was the new planning committee. Councillor Dowd declared an interest, as previously mentioned, in 21-10767. And this again featured you in the plan list. It was a short one, but there was lots to write about. So pages 31 to 35. So I'm going to go page by page, and please challenge me if it doesn't meet your, if it doesn't reflect what you agreed on. Page 31, page 32, page 33, page 34, and lastly, page 35. And I would add that to South Street, the district council officers did come back to this council and asked if we agreed a revised comments which supported their objection, which I did as chairman of planning, because in this case, the officers have supported this council. So I understand it won't go to committee. So can I have a proposer and a seconder, please?
Propose.
All in favour? Thank you ever so much, Planning Committee, and again to the officers for taking up my long, wordy responses and sending them to the district. Thank you, Claire, much appreciated. And to everyone on the Planning Committee, new and old, thank you very much.
Right, we're moving on to the now, please. So over to you, Councillor Delamere.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to present the minutes of the Personnel Committee held on 19th of May. I'll go through, starts page 37, 38, 39, 40.
Sandra,
Oh, sorry, I've gone on, sorry.
page 38.
I'm struggling here rather. It's just that 37 and 38.
That's it.
Sorry. And if there's no objections, I'm their adoption.
I'm happy to propose.
To second.
Thank you. All in favour? Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
I'm moving on to the outside bodies, item 12, which is to appoint a representative trustee to serve on the Dibden Allotment Fund to replace Councillor Roberts. Councillor Sean Cullen, would you like to say a little bit about just a little bit about the role so that councillors can have a feel for what this entails?
First of all, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
As you're aware, when Tesco's bought the land off the parish to build where they are. They donated the money to they set up a charity, the Dibden Allotment Fund. Basically, what we do is we look to serve the in need in the Marchwood, Hythe district, and down into Holbury waterside area. We have a range of applicants. This month we've actually supported schools in giving like hardship funds for grants and school trips, and our services have been even more called upon in, you know, as a result of the pandemic. Is that sufficient?
I think because of the particular nature of the role that a trustee does, do you want to just outline a little bit about what kind of things you do?
Okay, so basically we deal with two components. Once a month we meet as a whole governing, as a whole trustee body, to deal with either what's called individual applications, which are normally up to £1,000, or institutional applications. So for example, the Handy Trust, we support them. On a rota basis, we deal with small apps, which are individual applications normally up to the value of £1,000. So whoever takes on the role is sort of agreeing to a monthly meeting, which is normally about 2 hours on a Wednesday, and to take part in the rota where they may be once or twice a month on the small apps committee, which could probably take an hour up to an hour and a half. Is that sufficient?
That's brilliant, thank you very much. Do we have any councillors who would be willing to serve on that body?
Yeah, I was hoping to propose Councillor Simon Lodge.
Excellent.
Second that, Chairman.
We have a seconder. Thank you very much. Oh, excellent. Do we have anyone else who wishes to stand? Brilliant, then the job is yours. Thank you very much.
Is that agreed by council for the minute?
Should we agree that before he takes a second thought about it? Brilliant, thank you. Now we move on to item 13, and my understanding of this, it is for noting. So if we can turn to pages 39 through 48, the internal audit. I'm hoping that some councillors have read through this prior to the meeting. Are there any questions before I ask if you're happy to note?
So we note the report.
Yeah.
Also, the external auditor has changed the way that councils have to agree now the dates of inspection by the public for the accounts. And that's why it had to go on this agenda. So in other words, on page 44, council just has to formally agree that those dates, which are Monday the 28th of June to Friday the 6th of August, those are officially the dates whereby the public can inspect the accounts. Those have to be approved by council now. They've changed the way they've done it, don't ask me why. It's just more bureaucracy.
Anyone have any comments to raise on that? Then can I have your approval or otherwise for accepting that change? If you're happy with it, would you please raise your hand? That's a near unanimous acceptance. Do we now need to just simply note that we've...
And you've noted the report.
Yeah. Yeah, we're happy to note that report. Let's put our hands up again, why not?
It's
all good exercise. Fantastic, thank you. Then moving on, we have the Hampshire County Council balancing the budget consultation. Now, this is a slightly unusual item in that we are perfectly, it's perfectly acceptable for us to respond to this as individuals, but we felt it was important to respond as a council to it. Now, I'm grateful to the work of particularly Alex Wade and Councillor Alex Wade and Malcolm Wade for guiding us on this, but it is for us as a council to be happy with what we're sending. So there are certain sections that I have filled in, so I will read those out to you. So if I can draw your attention, please, first of all, to page 9. This is section 2, options for balancing the budget continued. The comment reads, additional revenue should be obtained by using some areas for corporate bookings and ensure free or affordable use for low-income residents and schools. Also, utilising existing assets and investment could be a way of creating revenue. Council tax rises with inflation would be sensible, and a small rise of this following a referendum would be considered. But we'd rather see a push for better council funding from the government, which has forced nearly £600 million of cuts already. I'm paraphrasing that. Is everyone happy with that as a statement from this council? Thank you very much. And I'm now moving on to page 13. And we have section 4, impacts. So the comment to please describe what, if any, impact the county council's options for that, and so on and so forth. It reads, existing cuts have already decimated local services and further cuts are simply too much. We cannot support any reduction to local services, such as to the recycling centres, and closures or reduced hours would lead to risks of additional fly tipping. Less recycling and impact on remaining centres and usage with extra traffic and queues. So that is our comment on the recycling centres. Are councillors happy to support that as being our comment on recycling centres?
I have a question, John.
Thank you, Councillor Wade.
I just want to add to this a couple of points that I do think the loss of the school crossing patrol, I don't think is particularly acceptable, and we shouldn't support it, particularly when the school crossing at Bewley Road, going over to the Nodes Way area on a very busy road, has been there for many years, ensuring that our children, when I was little, I say when I was little, when I was young, I'm still little, can cross the road safely and securely. And I don't think we should be cutting such a service, and also the loss of any public health services within the community as well, whether that's offering advice on sexual health, whether that's supporting young mums and newborn babies, anything that involves challenges to people getting those services outside of the parish should not be cut. And I understand that approximately about 43 jobs are at risk for public health. Maybe the county councillor can support us on this, but I would add those points as well. I hadn't been aware of them at the time of completing.
Thank you. Councillor Rebecca Clark.
Just to say that it's my understanding also that we will lose some school nurses, which I think is also unacceptable, particularly given the mental health issues and other issues that are particularly prevalent currently following the pandemic. I think it's just the wrong time to cut something as important as that.
Thank you for your comments. I'm moving on now to page 14. We've got under adults, health and care, adult, child and family support must be maintained and improved with a focus on supporting all in need at the earliest opportunity. Under children's services, school crossings must be kept for safety of our children and families, and county parks and trust sites need support to ensure accessibility for all ages and abilities to learn about the area and have affordable access to nature and leisure services. Adult, child and family support must be maintained and improved with focus on supporting all in need at the earliest opportunity with no cuts. I think we would all accept that it is actually a false economy to delay help when it's needed at the point of need. and it actually ends up costing a lot more to society as a whole. So I would certainly thoroughly endorse those comments. Under culture, communities and business services, services that remain must be suitably funded and not use the reliance of volunteers who, while amazing, should not be the default for services we pay our taxes for, and need proper long-term funding and management. And the final one, economy, transport and environment. Community transport must be supported for rural communities and support the environment, such as the ferry and access to the New Forest. Do we have any comments on that section? Okay, can I have an indication of support for those comments representing the view of the council? Thank you very much, councillors. In addition to that, I have some comments from County Councillor Malcolm Wade, just to kind of guide our thinking here. So he said the issue introducing and increasing charges for some services, and he says, no, as it's those that need the services most will not be able to pay. Lobbying central government for legislative change, I'll put the teeth in. Yes, but only lobbying government to restore local government funding they've previously cut, not be allowed to bring in new charges for previously free services. Generating additional income. Yes, by the council using a property development business plan to generate business income. Reducing and changing services. No, Hampshire County Council services have been reduced enough over the last 10 years of austerity, negatively affecting the elderly, the young and the vulnerable. Increasing council tax. Yes, as a last resort, but only on an ability to pay basis due to the negative economic effects of the pandemic and the lockdown on people's income and livelihood. Changing local government arrangements in Hampshire, no waste of time and money. So those are the thoughts of Councillor Malcolm Wade. Are we happy to include those comments as part of our response to the consultation? Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Chairman, I just wanted to point this is really, really important consultation in one way. Another 80 million taken out of Hampshire's budget will have a devastating effect on its ability to deliver social services. I cannot stress enough. And sadly, local government consultations, and Hampshire is no different to the district council in that respect. And I've served on it long enough to know that they've got to do something anyway. That this is more of an exercise rather than a genuine quest for how they will do it. But it's important that you voice the voice of this council and those individuals is heard, because the time will come when we need to hold them to account for this, and the government, because we cannot survive with this level of cuts to local government funding. Demand has risen for social services exponentially, even without the impact of the pandemic. And I think Councillor mentioned that the mental health issues have shot above, this is not a normal situation we've been in. But even without that, it's been increased. 10 years of austerity have brought the council to look at very innovative ways, and all credit to them, they've looked many innovative ways for delivering services. There's only so many new ways you can do it. There's only so much you can cut and still deliver the service. And the social service aspect, even the roads, our roads, there has been, I attended a briefing where the chief director of economy and transport said that our road system is not fit for purpose because it is degraded and we can't afford to fix it. It takes 200 years to repair every pavement, for example. So the government reduction in funding, we have to make them know that enough is enough. We need to invest in local services. We need to invest in local government. People need it. That's why this is important, because eventually it's going to register. One would hope. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Mark Clark.
Can I ask through the chair, Mr. Chairman, whether the county councillor will obviously raise, or whether it's part of it because it's a political point, that 2 years ago Surrey were in a similar position and they made their views very well known to government through all sorts of different media, and all of a sudden, you know, additional funding was made available. I just wonder, we have a considerable amount of very high profile Conservatives who live and work in Hampshire, yet there seems to be no lobbying of those ministers to raise our precept. I wonder whether it is, but that's a political point. You can't really put that in a consultation. But it seems that lobbying seems to be off the agenda for some reason.
Well, I mean, we have to deal with what we have, and we feel strongly enough to make our representation as a parish council, and I fully support that. From a practical point of view, I'm just curious where we move forward from here, and I don't know whether it might be an idea to have a small group of councillors who would like to take those points and the job of actually completing our response in the format that it has to be done. Do we have any volunteers who would like to assist with that? Thank you, Councillor Wade.
Can I suggest that Claire and I get together and fill it in, send it to you, and then if you think that accurately reflects what the need is here, we'll send it in.
Brilliant, that's fine, and I'll also take part in that process. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on then. Thank you. Now we have item 15, which is to consider whether delegated officer authority due to COVID continues or ceases until the end of the government lockdown measures, and to consider implications. For example, no further Zoom meetings under delegated authority, and all council meetings to be physical, complying with COVID safety risk assessments. Would you like to lead on that, please, Sue?
I can, in as much as we all know what the government is intending and it's been delayed. So really this is my way of enabling council to carry on with its functions. I don't want to make your decisions. I just want to enable you to make your decisions in a comfortable way, such as holding Zoom meetings, for example. So in other words, if the government were to delay the relaxation, I'm suggesting extending the delegated authority to enable you to still hold Zoom meetings where you give the authority. I don't mind either way, to be perfectly honest. I'm just enabling, hoping to enable it for you.
Councillor Alex Wade.
So I have two sides of this. Firstly, if I had it my way, then the government would extend the original rules. We'd all be meeting on Zoom or have hybrid or make our own decisions. It worked very well. The government have absolutely got that wrong. And I think a lot of councils agree with that. However, we can only deal with what the rules that were presented to us. And I think we're at this stage of how we can meet in person, albeit not quite as we're used to. It's important we do get back to making decisions in person. This is not the best, our perfect format of a meeting. But I do think really the delegated authority has to be reduced, and we have to brought back to some form of normality. And my personal view is, because we're not allowed to make decisions on Zoom, unfortunately, that makes a decision for me, regrettably, but I do think that we should focus on getting back to some form of normality as a council.
Thank you, Councillor Wade. Councillor Osborne.
I just think if we could have had it on Zoom and made all these decisions over the last nearly 2 years, why can't we continue if it's more sensible? I mean, in here tonight, I think this is a terrible situation myself. Well, it's okay because the weather's not too bad tonight, but I certainly wouldn't want to be in here with the doors and windows shut. And it's a long meeting, and you could be at home on Zoom.
Thank you. Okay.
Do Sean first.
Yep. First of all, thank you to the officers for sorting this out. We're in a much better position than, I believe it was Macclesfield Council who had to actually meet in a car park. So, thank you, all credit to them for creating this environment. And I think I'd just like to echo what Councillor Wade had said, in that we're demonstrating at the moment that we can do this in this way, albeit it's not perfect. Therefore, I think we should try and continue this way and take back the delegated authority.
Thank you. Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, the whole issue is around legislation. And when the government withdrew the legislation in May, council have no choice but to meet live if they want to make decisions. The district council and the county council are meeting live to make decisions. Parish councils around us are meeting live to make decisions. So, we have found a format. It isn't ideal. If we could look at the how we can improve this by reviewing the risk assessments, so we don't need these, I'm sure it would work perfectly in the interim. I suspect on the 19th of July, we will be back to normal anyway. But on the off chance that we don't, I would propose that we continue work it. We from now on, the council takes its own decisions and meets live. Particularly, there are some issues coming up that may come up in the next few weeks that are of a sensitive nature, and we may need to make a decision. I'm not saying what it is. We may need to make a decision. Therefore, it's right that we follow our responsibilities, meet like this or in an improved version of this to make decisions. And by the time the 19th of July has come along, they'll probably not social distancing will probably knock on head anyway, which then this will be academic. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Mark Clark.
Just very briefly, Mr. Chairman, I just wonder, hopefully we'll all be back to normal after the 19th of July. But in the meantime, I just wonder whether Marcus and the team could still pursue the idea of getting BT and a Wi-Fi into this hall so that we have any eventuality resolved, if that's possible.
That is being pursued anyway.
Great, thank you very much.
Sorry, Councillor Clark, is that a...
Sorry. Yes, I mean, obviously we're all hopeful that things will become easier on the 19th, and they may well do, but similarly, as we go into the autumn, they may become more difficult again. So my feeling is that we use this first instance of us meeting like this, and we maybe all provide feedback about how we feel we could do it even more efficiently. So we're prepared, because presumably the legislation won't necessarily change if the restrictions improve. So my feeling is while Zoom is convenient, when we were first elected as councillors, we expected to have to come out to meetings and be with the public inside in the middle of the community. And I'm actually quite pleased to be back in that scenario. So I, for one, would like to continue with live meetings and take powers back so that we can act as a council as normally as possible in very straitened times. So thank you.
I would add that obviously Councillor Roberts can't be here this evening, and I do think it is a shame that in this setup that Councillor Roberts can't take part in the meeting. And obviously, if we had a hybrid arrangement, we're able to do that. She would be able to play a full part in the meeting. So that is, I think, a sad point, and I think we do need to be mindful of that. And there will be other councillors around the country who are unable to take a full part in council meetings if they are done live at the moment. So I do think we need to be mindful of that. Councillor Alex Wade.
Again, you've mentioned my point, really. There are councillors who are in this room who would probably be more comfortable doing it on Zoom. I hold my hands up and say I've probably been a better councillor and father by attending those meetings straight in on Zoom. No, I do like meeting all in person, but generally from a work-life balance, it has worked well for me individually. And if you're going to encourage more people from more backgrounds and all ages and responsibilities to be councillors, then that has to be a consideration. My frustration is that whether it's the officers who don't have a say in this either all around the country, this is a decision that's been taken with no councillor and no local government employees' views at hand. And frankly, based on what's happening at the moment, we could be reverting back to Zoom meetings come winter, when we might all be asked to isolate a bit more when we get the colder months to support the NHS, because currently we're in the summer, we're in a better period, but we don't know what's going to happen at the rest of the year. As I say, I support my previous point, but really regrettably, based on the fact I'm really quite frustrated that the government has not seen what has been a really positive period for engagement for local councils and just decided to ignore it. Sorry.
Thank you. So I think we've reached the point really where we need to make a decision on this. So what I would ask is that the statement is to consider whether the delegated officer authority continues or ceases. So I think what we need to vote on is if we are happy for it to continue. If you are happy for delegated authority to continue, that means that we're able to hold Zoom meetings or decision-making groups. Is that correct?
For example, the next planning meeting, if you vote to continue delegated authority, you can have that by Zoom. But if you don't want to, then it can't be by Zoom.
So the choice is, if you vote for delegated authority continuing, it means that we can do certain meetings on Zoom in the way that we've been doing. If you decide against that, then all our meetings will be in person. Councillor Wade.
Chairman, just to clarify something, it's only meetings with where decisions need to be made, need to be live. Briefings, other meetings where no financial decisions are being made can still be virtual.
Yeah, so it's decision-making meetings would be in person. So can I have a show of hands, please, those people who
Can I clarify, please?
I beg your pardon, sorry.
So we can have a Zoom meeting and we can discuss anything we want in the Zoom meeting and decide on what we want, but then we've got to have a formal meeting like this, in effect, to notify the clerk to say that's the way we want to go.
If you recall earlier on in this meeting, we had a bunch of agendas to agree.
Yeah.
Minutes to agree.
Yeah.
Because those were minutes of meetings that were done under delegated authority. So because we're now meeting as a body, we can now formally agree those. You cannot.
So that's what I'm saying. We can have a Zoom meeting to decide on any of these things what we would like to be done. Then we need to be in a formal meeting to just let the clerk know our decision and take the vote in that. So in effect,
correct.
Our meeting could take a couple of hours.
That depends on the delegated authority. Maybe if I may,
Well, as I understand it, please, let me know. If we give you delegated authority, that is for you to then do what you think we want.
carry out your decision.
Right. So, but if we have a Zoom meeting and discuss it and then let you know what we want, that's still delegated authority if you can do what we've asked.
The way we held the last council meeting by Zoom was because that had delegated authority to the clerk.
Yeah.
So in other words, in technical terms, that was a working group meeting. It was not an official council meeting. However, we made it look like an official council meeting because it was done under delegated authority to the clerk. So for all intents and purposes, it looked like a normal meeting. However, I was carrying out your decisions on your behalf under delegated authority. That's all that was happening. What might make it easier for you to concentrate your mind is that the next meeting in July, I think was due to be just after the announcement, isn't it? Which might negate, depending on what's announced, it might negate the need for delegated authority. I don't know. We just don't know what's going to be announced.
Yeah. As I said when we discussed this before, I've got no objection to you having the delegated authority because we wouldn't have appointed you if we didn't think you'd do what we wanted. We've got to trust your decision on that. But I just wanted clarification. If we on a Zoom meeting take 2.5 hours to discuss things, but then we get in a formal thing like this and say, item 1 on the agenda, we want X, Y, Z, to that we've decided, and we let you know of that. That is then a formal meeting that you would then use your delegated powers to. So that meeting could only then take perhaps half hour.
There are only certain things which the clerk cannot do under delegated authority. And I think I gave the list of those things in the last document. I can't approve the minutes for council. I can't appoint the clerk, for example. And I can't approve the accounts. There's a whole list of things.
Yeah.
But generally, if you delegate authority to the clerk has the authority to undertake things on your behalf, such as if you want to buy a new tractor for £30,000, then I can go and do that under your delegated authority. In practice, I'm not going to do anything you don't want to do. But and this might be an arbitrary conversation even, because in 3 weeks' time, if the government says they're relaxing absolutely everything, it doesn't make any difference now because we go back to normal meetings.
Yeah. You believe that, you believe anything.
Councillor Cullen.
I believe Councillor Wade's already alluded to this. We've got some really important decisions coming up in the next couple of weeks, and saying kicking it into the long grass, saying it's the 19th, I don't believe it's acceptable. I think what we need to do is, you know, with all due respect, the clerk has done an amazing job and continues to do an amazing job, but I think it's time that the council took back the delegated authority.
Councillor Wade.
Chairman, with this particular item, we know we have a very professional clerk who does an excellent job for us, and that is not in doubt. This isn't anything to do with that. It's about the principle that we are the elected representatives of the people of Hythe and Dibden. It is our job to make decisions on their behalf. It's a principle, and all the other councils around us are doing the same. And how we look benchmark to them, because we will be, you know, someone will pick this up at some stage, and no doubt about that. So the point I'm trying to make is it's probably going to mean very little, because day to day the clerk will carry on doing all the good work that she does. But the principle is we are making the decision as a council, as councillors, on behalf of our electorate, rather than delegating that to an officer when other councillors are meeting in safe environments, because I think this is pretty safe, and making decisions. Yeah, and it's just as that. Now we can, the district council, I know, is looking at dispensations for certain members who can't attend live meetings, and I think we should do the same if any of our members are thus, you know, in that position. And I think we should look to do that, and I would support that. But it's how we look to the folk outside. We should be doing our job fully now, because other people are. And I think that's the reason why.
Thank you,
Councillor
Wade. I think we're now to
Can I make it easy? I'm not taking this personally. Don't worry, you won't upset me. You know, I don't mind if you want to take that, you know, delegated. Don't worry, you're not upsetting me.
I think the point needs to be made about a meeting that is impacted. So just for clarification, anyone on the planning committee, I bear in mind, you know, my decision. I think we should remove delegated authority. If you're on the planning committee, we will have to meet in person. It won't be a perfect planning meeting. I urge you all to look at your papers beforehand. We won't be able to use the screens currently, but we will have to make those decisions on those applications as a committee in person, which I'm partially excited about, because that means we can come to a collective decision. But we will have to meet in person and decide those, slightly different to how we would historically have done it pre-COVID. Hopefully only for that month, but just wanted to make that position clear that the second Wednesday of July, there will be an in-person planning committee for you lovely people who sit with planning up with me.
No, I think I hear what you're saying. I think the clarification there is that basically you won't have your plans and things like that in paper form. They are only available digitally, and we can't view them currently in here. So all the groundwork would need to be done as we've been doing it at the moment in our own back rooms or wherever we access them. We would have to make notes, and we would need to bring those notes to the meeting to refer to when we debate each of the planning applications. Councillor Rebecca Clark.
I was going to say, if you use the modern Gov app, you can download a copy without needing the Wi-Fi and annotate it as well, which means that all councillors could have an electronic copy they could scroll through it with their notes. So maybe, you know, that could be used in the meeting. I mean, Councillor Wade has mentioned about dispensation, and clearly if any of us need to isolate at any point, then similarly we can't take part in debates. There's all sorts of scenarios that could arrive that would mean that councillors' attendance for whatever reason could be impacted, and I think we have to be as a council, very understanding of that with our members. But I also wondered if, as a council, because inclusion is very important and nobody should be excluded, if there's an issue with the legislation that is stopping some of our councillors engaging in their role completely, then that is clearly wrong, even if we take a decision tonight to continue with live meetings. And I'd like there maybe to be some sort of representation from the parish council to say this, in support of those members who we can't fully accommodate because of the legislation. If that is true, that's not fair on any councillor. So whilst I would like us to go back to live meetings, I'd also like us to put on record that we don't agree that it's put certain councillors in a situation where they can't be included. But yes, the modern gov would allow you to do everything you needed to offline.
Thank you. Sue.
Can I just say that there was a consultation a month ago, which I think Councillor Alex Wade actually did coordinated the responses for, and that went to central government to feed into the fact as whether you want to continue with Zoom meetings, hybrid meetings, and gave the views of all parish councils all around the country. And I think Alex, you kindly did our responses on our behalf.
Yeah, I remember that, and I also suggested that we write to Julian Lewis as well, following that. But what I'm saying is I'm talking about sort of almost like a legal point about inclusion. If somebody has a situation, personally has a situation that precludes them from attending, and the legislation is not allowing for that, then surely that is breaching their rights. I'm coming from a more legal position here to say, could we make some representation to protect their rights, basically, to let them be included?
We're certainly happy to look into that, and that would be something we could do. I would say. Thank you for that point. Right, so we've reached the point, I believe, now where we're going to vote on delegated authority. So to make it clear, if I ask you to either support, you're going to say approve it, you're going to abstain, or you're not going to approve it. So it's whether you want to continue with delegated authority. So that's what you're voting on.
Why don't you say cease or continue?
Right, there we go then. So if we go down the list, I'll go in alpha.
Chairman, could you just clarify what we're voting on?
Right.
Do we agree? Are we agreed to continue with delegated powers?
If you say continue, we will continue with delegated powers. If you say cease, we will move to meeting in person normally.
Sorry, what we got to say for meeting in person? I didn't hear you.
You have to say, apologies for everyone who feels it's dragging out. Cease if you want to remove delegate.
Alex, you speak for math.
Cease if you want to remove delegated authority, or continue.
Not continue, no.
Getting.
Right, I'm going to say it one more time, because I think it's important that we have absolute clarity in this room. If you. Please. Right. Well, if you talk through me, you're not going to hear it, Councillor Wade. Sorry. Right. If you say continue, we continue with delegated powers to the clerk. If you say cease, we stop and we meet in person. Okay. So I'm going to go down the list in alphabetical order, and you will say either continue or cease. Okay. Here we go then. Councillor Mark Clark. Peace. Councillor Rebecca Clark.
Peace.
Councillor Sean Cullen.
Peace.
Councillor Sandra Delamere.
Peace.
Councillor Alan Fairhead.
Peace.
Councillor Matt Kitcher.
Continue.
Councillor Simon Lodge.
Peace.
Councillor Gemma Lovell.
Peace.
Councillor Steph Osborne.
Continue.
Councillor Alex Wade.
Peace.
Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Peace.
And myself, it is continue. I believe the ceases have it. Thank you. Right, that was a short item. Moving on to item number 16. I am hoping and praying is a short item because we have all seen the 6-week cycle and the 8-week cycle, and we've had a chance to ask questions. We've had a chance to review in our own minds and see how it fits in with various other things. And so we are agreeing the 6-week meeting cycle for the new committee structure. I will stress that this is for the remainder of this council year. We will then review the situation at the end of that year or before the end of that year. So this is for the remainder of this council year.
Proposed, Chairman.
I'm sorry, Alan, I missed that.
I propose, accept.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Clark. Can I have a show of hands, those people who approve the 6-week meeting cycle? Thank you very much. That was a short item. Right, we now have the item 17, pages 71 to 80, which is to receive an update on the financial effect of COVID, to receive the bank reconciliation, and to receive the accounts. Now, am I correct in thinking A and B are for noting?
Yeah.
And then we need to approve C?
Yes, I have no comments on any of them, so as I stated.
Thank you. So can I check that councillors are noting item 17A? Any comments? Are we happy to note that?
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And item B, any comments, any questions? Are we happy to note item B?
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Moving on to item C, to approve the accounts for payment for May. That is. Do I have someone to propose?
I propose.
Thank you, Councillor Wade. Do I have someone to second? I prefer it with someone who doesn't sign them off regularly. Fresh pair of eyes. Thank you, Councillor Fairhead. Can I have your vote on that? If you raise your hand, if you approve the accounts. Thank you very much. Our member of the public has gone. Councillor Clark, would you mind halting the recording, please?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Shut the door.